And that's why we established the Joint Continental Strategy to fight against COVID-19, which is coordinated at the highest level of the continent by the head of state. So as a member of the AU, we continue to work with Eritrea and make sure that if they're available, we will be happy to support them as much as possible in the vaccine campaign.
All right, thank you. I'm just waiting for more colleagues to come through with their questions, but in the meantime, given the figures that you gave us at the beginning, would you say that we are now on our way to controlling the pandemic on the continent?
Well, we are on the way. The way I interpret those figures is that we are on the way. We have actually now controlled this wave. Okay, we are down at the trough. And I usually use the analogy of a trough and the peak of the mountain. So we are now at the trough. The question now for us as a strategy is, what do we do to remain at the trough as much as possible? So that, as Judith from Kenya said, what do we do to maintain the positivity rate at less than, say, 5%? I think that is what we should be doing now. And we at Africa CDC, as I indicated, are doing a series of things. We launched guidelines for self-testing. We are promoting rapid antigen tests. We are promoting rapid uptake of vaccines and vaccinations as much as possible, so that we take advantage of the fact that we are at a low transmission season to put in place many things that can blunt the next time you see the wave. There will be a next wave. Let there be no doubt about it. There will be a next wave. There's how this virus circulate until we get to that point where we have a high level of population immunity.
All right, thank you. James Chege Macharia, who is with Reuters in Johannesburg, says, on the issue of vaccines, can you say Africa has enough supplies, and does supply now exceed demand? That's his first question. I'll come back with the second one later. So
what we are seeing is what are characterized as a predictable supply of vaccines on the continent. It doesn't mean that you have all the doses that are required, but it means that countries can now say, okay, we know that we're going to expect to receive X doses of AstraZeneca and X doses of Pfizer or whatever, and then they can plan according, because all the vaccines are not the same, right? So some vaccines require very important cold chains, and some require less stringency in storage there. So that predictability is what we have talked about. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have all the vaccines now, but what I have called on is that this is the moment to coordinate efforts so that the donations come in a way that countries can use, and then we can now say, okay, the next semester we will do another serious injection of vaccines, and then again coordinate our efforts to vaccinate them, so that we avoid a scenario where vaccines all come in large amount and then they are wasted, okay, or they're expired. So that should be the strategy that we use going forward.
All right. The second question from James. He says, on Friday, the South African Minister of Health announced that 100,000 Pfizer vaccine doses were at risk of being destroyed due to low uptake of inoculations. Does the continent face a similar situation where vaccines are at risk of being destroyed? And if so, how bad is the problem?
I don't know how bad the problem is. We have not quantified it, but we are quantifying that, okay, in the process of looking into the details of that. That is exactly what I cautioned against a few weeks ago in the interview I gave at the Politico. I said, if we are not careful, we just bring in vaccines in an uncoordinated way, then you end up with a scenario where vaccines will expire. There is no doubt about that. And a crude analogy of what I said in that interview is that it's like buying a lot of food and stockpiling at home and then you don't use it. I mean, that is you definitely, only the outcome is known that the food will rot. So you have to have a strategy of knowing exactly what you need, and you get that, and you massively try to coordinate efforts with the partners to use those vaccines. And then again, we coordinate efforts to bring in the next series of vaccines. I think that is that should be the approach, the logical approach going forward to address the vaccination component. But what is important now is the delivery of the vaccines into arms.
Judith Akolo has come back again, and she says, the continent has received enormous support for vaccines against COVID-19. How is the Africa CDC intending to continue the momentum for vaccination? And I think this is also related to the previous question where James was wondering if we have too many vaccines on the continent. So how does the Africa CDC intend to continue the momentum of vaccination in a situation where the public now think that COVID-19 has ended?
Well, it is a collective responsibility, not just Africa CDC, but the member states and the community to recognize that unless and until we vaccinate as many people as possible, and WHO has given us the target of 70%, the risk is that we'll continue to see this virus come and go. I mean, like what we have just seen now, increase, but then it will come back again. So Africa CDC, as you're all aware, launched the Saving Livelihood Initiative together with the MasterCard Foundation. And that initiative is going very well. We have so many countries that have completed their micro-planning. We have so many teams that are in several countries already supporting the vaccination, including in Sierra Leone, South Sudan, Cameroon, Tanzania, Kenya, and other countries. So we continue to maintain that momentum. And that is also the more reason why the meeting we are having today will be very important. It will continue to be a standing meeting. If you recall, in December, we had a similar meeting with ministers of health, and now we're having this meeting. It will continue to be a platform that we use in galvanizing the continent and coordinating our efforts to ensure that effective uptake of vaccine. Look, we are in here. My hope is that 2022 is the year we turn the corner and begin to live our lives normally if we do the right thing. And the right thing is massive uptake of vaccines together with all our partners and with the leadership and ownership of the community.
Paul, I see that your hand is still up. Do you have another question for us? All right, the hand has just disappeared. We come back to James Macharia Chege, who is with Reuters in Johannesburg. Is Africa CDC still talking to pharmaceutical firms Merck and Pfizer about obtaining supplies of their antiviral pills to treat COVID-19 in view of the positive supply situation of vaccines on the continent? Yes,
we're still doing that. And as a matter of fact, for the Pfizer situation, we have the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding is with the legal office at the AU. Once that is cleared,